The specialists handed me a timeline that felt more like a prison sentence. They gave me 4 months, maybe less if the winter was harsh. I boarded a flight to Seattle to see my daughter, Helen, one last time. I expected to find her smiling, perhaps hiding her own pain to make me feel better. Instead, I found her unconscious in the intensive care unit, her face swollen, her spirit broken, and her body map of purple bruises. Before I get into the nightmare that unfolded, I want you to take a second to join us here. If you believe family is worth fighting for, like this story and share it. I want to know, where are you watching this from? Drop your city in the comments. We are building a community here that looks out for one another, so please hit that subscribe button to stand with us. The plane's wheels hit the tarmac at SeaTac Airport with a violent thud that rattled my teeth. I hadn't slept in 2 days. Outside the window, the rain was coming down in sheets, blurring the lights of the terminal into long, weeping streaks of gray and neon. It matched how I felt inside. The doctor said I had 4 months left, so I flew home to see my daughter one last time. But I found her in intensive care. She was badly injured while her husband was out partying. My blood boiled. I made one phone call. 1 hour later, he was completely destroyed. I grabbed my duffel bag from the overhead bin. It contained 2 flannel shirts, a bottle of prescription pain pills for the fire in my chest, and a framed photograph of Natasha, my late wife. I was 60 years old, a retired structural welder who had spent 30 years breathing in metal fumes and grinding dust. I was supposed to be going home to Montana to die in peace. But peace was a luxury I could no longer afford. The ride to Harborview Medical Center was a blur of wet asphalt and brake lights. I stared out at the city, at the tech towers and the coffee shops, wondering how many people walking those streets knew their expiration date. I knew mine. It sat in my lungs like wet concrete, hardening every day. When I reached the reception desk, the fluorescent lights hummed with a headache-inducing buzz. I gave the nurse my name. She looked at me with pity that I didn't want. "4th floor," she said softly. "ICU. But sir, be prepared." I wasn't prepared. Nothing prepares a father for seeing his child wired to machines. When I walked into the room, Nurse Betty was adjusting an IV drip. She was an older woman with kind eyes that had seen too much tragedy. She looked at me, then at Helen. Helen looked small, fragile. The tube down her throat hissed rhythmically, doing the breathing she couldn't do for herself. Her arm was casted. Her jaw was wired. But it was the silence that killed me. Helen had always been loud, a laugh that could crack a window. Now she was just a ghost in a gown. I pulled a plastic chair next to the bed, the legs scraping loudly against the linoleum. I took her hand. It was cold. Her fingernails were painted a soft pink, but one was broken, jagged at the edge. I closed my eyes, and for a second, I wasn't in a sterile hospital room. I was back in the backyard of our old house in Missoula. Helen was 6 years old, wearing oversized rain boots, stomping in mud puddles while Natasha laughed from the porch. "Frank, let her get dirty," Natasha had said. "It washes off." Natasha had passed away 10 years ago. Before she went, she made me swear on her Bible that I'd always be Helen's shield. "She has a soft heart, Frank. Don't let the world harden it." I squeezed Helen's cold hand. I had failed. I had let her marry Kennedy Blackwood, a man with a silver tongue and a heart made of coal. I opened my eyes. The heart monitor beeped, a steady electronic countdown. I had spent the last 3 years estranged from her, because I was too proud to accept that she chose a rich real estate heir over her father's advice. I thought I was giving her space. I was actually giving her to a monster. Mr. Callahan? Nurse Betty's voice was gentle. You need to know something. I didn't look up from Helen's hand. Tell me. This isn't an accident, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. This is the 4th time she's been admitted this year. First it was a fall down the stairs, then a car accident. Then she walked into a door. But this, she gestured to my daughter's broken body. He went too far. I turned to look at her. Kennedy? She nodded. Mr. Blackwood has friends in high places. Every time we file a report, it vanishes. The security footage gets corrupted. The police take a statement, and then nothing. He pays people off, or his father does. They treat this hospital like a repair shop for his mistakes. A rage started to build in my gut, hotter than the sickness in my lungs. It wasn't the frantic anger of a young man. It was the cold, calculated fury of a man with nothing left to lose. I had 4 months. I could spend them dying, or I could spend them burning Kennedy's world to the ground. Where are her personal effects? I asked. My voice sounded like gravel grinding in a mixer. Nurse Betty handed me a clear plastic bag. Inside was her purse, a broken necklace I had given her for graduation, and her smartphone. The screen was cracked, a spider web of glass over the display. I pressed the side button. It lit up. No passcode. She never used one. I swiped open the gallery. It was full of pictures of her golden retriever, sunsets from their penthouse balcony, and forced smiles at gala dinners. But then, I scrolled down to the hidden album. My thumb hovered over a video thumbnail dated 2 nights ago. It was dark, shaky. I want to pause here. If you have ever felt the helplessness of seeing someone you love in pain, you know that silence is the accomplice of the abuser. We subscribe to channels for entertainment, but I'm asking you to subscribe today for something else. Subscribe as a promise that you won't turn a blind eye to suffering. Do it for the fathers who arrived too late. Do it because the truth deserves a witness. I pressed play. The audio was the first thing that hit me. The sound of heavy breathing and a whimper. My son-in-law filmed himself beating my daughter. Now, the whole country is watching him. The camera was propped up on a shelf, likely hidden by Helen herself. The angle was low. Kennedy was screaming, his face contorted, veins bulging in his neck. He wasn't human. He was a rabid animal in a $3,000 suit. You think you can leave? Kennedy roared in the video. You don't walk away from a Blackwood. Then came the sound of impact, a sickening thud. Helen fell into the frame, scrambling backward on the marble floor. She was begging. Kennedy, please, I just wanted to go see my dad. He's sick. He's a loser, Kennedy spat, kicking her in the ribs. And so are you. The video ended with him smashing a vase over her head. The screen went black. I sat in the hospital chair, my hands trembling so hard, I almost dropped the phone. He had filmed it. Or she had filmed it to prove it. It didn't matter. I had the weapon I needed. I put Helen's phone in my pocket and pulled out my own, a battered old flip phone that had survived more construction sites than I could count. I scrolled through the contacts until I found a name I hadn't dialed in 20 years. Sampson. I hit the green button. It rang 4 times. Frank? A voice answered, deep and rough like rolling thunder. I thought you were dead. Not yet, I said. But I need to call in the marker, Sampson, the big one. There was a pause on the other end. Name the place. I'm there. I don't need muscle, Sampson. I need a ghost. I need someone who can take a digital life and tear it apart. I'm in Seattle. My daughter, her husband tries to kill her, and he's out partying right now while she's in a coma. Who is he? Samson asked. The playfulness was gone from his voice. Kennedy Blackwood, son of Reginald Blackwood. Samson whistled low. You're hunting whales, Frank. Reginald owns half the zoning board, but whales bleed just like minnows. Send me what you have. I forwarded the video file to an encrypted email address Samson gave me. Then I sat back and watched the rise and fall of Helen's chest. Samson wasn't just an old drinking buddy. Back in the day, before he went into private security and digital forensics, he was a kid I looked out for on the rigs. He was a wizard with information. If it was digital, he could find it, break it, or leak it. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Samson. Frank, this is worse than we thought, he said. I'm looking at Kennedy's financials. He's not just an abuser, he's laundering money through his father's shell companies, gambling debts. He owes the wrong kind of people about $4 million. He's been siphoning it from the charity accounts Helen manages. Can you prove it? I can prove what he had for breakfast 3 years ago, Samson growled. I'm compiling a packet. Video, bank statements, text messages to his mistresses where he bragged about paying off the cops. It's a nuclear bomb, Frank. Detonate it, I said. Send it to everyone. The press, the DA, the FBI, his father's investors. Burn it all. While Samson worked his magic, I stared at the rain streaking the hospital window and remembered why Samson owed me. It was 1998. An oil platform off the coast. A pressure valve had blown, spewing superheated steam and oil. Samson had been trapped behind a wall of fire, pinned under a fallen beam. The evacuation order had been given. Everyone was running for the boats. I didn't run, I went back. I walked through the fire, my suit melting, my skin blistering. I lifted that beam just enough for him to crawl out. I carried him to the chopper with shrapnel in my leg. He lost 3 toes. I lost the ability to ever run again without a limp. He told me in the medevac chopper, "My life is yours, Frank. You say the word, I pay the debt." Tonight, the debt was paid. The attack began at 6:00 a.m. Samson hit send. The email subject line was simple: the true face of the Blackwood Empire. It went to 300 recipients, major news outlets, independent bloggers, federal prosecutors, and the board of directors for Blackwood Industries. I refreshed the news feed on my phone. At 6:15 a.m., nothing. At 6:30 a.m., a small tweet from a local reporter. Received disturbing footage regarding Kennedy Blackwood. Verifying. By 7:00 a.m., the dam broke. The Seattle Chronicle went live with the headline, "Real estate heir caught on tape in brutal assault." The video was embedded at the top. I watched the view count. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. The comments rolled in like a tidal wave of judgment. Lock him up. Animal. Is she alive? The world was waking up, and Kennedy Blackwood was about to have a very bad morning. Across town, in a penthouse overlooking the Puget Sound, Kennedy Blackwood rolled over in silk sheets. His head was pounding from the scotch he'd downed the night before. He reached for his phone on the nightstand, squinting against the morning light. He had 47 missed calls, 70 texts. He frowned, confusing panic rising in his chest. He unlocked the phone. The notifications cascaded down the screen like a waterfall. "Mom, answer the phone, you idiot." "Dad, don't speak to anyone. I'm sending the lawyers." "Mistress 1, lose my number." He opened Twitter. He didn't have to search for his name. It was the #1 trending topic in the United States. Justice for Helen. He clicked the hashtag. The first thing he saw was his own face, twisted in rage, screaming at his wife. He dropped the phone on the thick carpet as if it were burning hot. Kennedy scrambled out of bed, tripping over his own expensive shoes. He ran to the window. Down below, news vans were already circling the building like sharks. He turned on the massive TV on the wall. Every channel was the same: CNN, Fox, MSNBC. They weren't just talking about the assault. They were talking about the money. Leaked documents allege a massive money laundering scheme involving charitable funds, a reporter said, standing in front of the Blackwood HQ. Federal agents have just entered the building. Kennedy watched as his father, Reginald Blackwood, the untouchable titan of Seattle, was led out of his office in handcuffs, shielding his face with a blazer. Kennedy fell to his knees. His assets were frozen. His reputation was incinerated. His father was in custody, and it had all happened while he slept. I was still holding Helen's hand when I heard the commotion in the hallway. "Sir, you cannot go in there," a security guard shouted. "She's my wife. Get out of my way." It was Kennedy. He had managed to slip out of the penthouse before the police arrived, or maybe he was just delusional enough to think he could talk his way out of this. He burst into the ICU room, his hair disheveled, his eyes wild. I stood up. My knees popped and my lungs burned, but I stood tall. Kennedy stopped when he saw me. He looked confused. "Frank, what are you doing here?" "I'm waiting for the trash to be taken out," I said calmly. "You did this," Kennedy hissed, stepping toward me. "You leaked that video. You ruined my life." "You ruined it yourself when you raised a hand to my daughter," I said. He lunged at me. For a man of 60 with failing lungs, I moved faster than he expected. I sidestepped his sloppy punch and shoved him hard against the wall. 2 security guards and a police officer burst into the room. They tackled Kennedy before he could rebound. "Kennedy Blackwood," the officer shouted. "You are under arrest for aggravated assault, attempted murder, and wire fraud." They hauled him up. His nose was bleeding. He looked at me with pure hatred. "She'll never leave me. She loves me." I walked up to him, close enough to smell the stale alcohol on his breath. "She doesn't love you, Kennedy. She feared you. And fear isn't love. Now get out." As they dragged him away, screaming, I felt a weight lift off my chest. But the war wasn't over. 3 days later, Helen woke up. I was reading a paperback Western in the chair when I heard a soft rustle of sheets. Her eyes fluttered open. They were hazy, unfocused. "Dad?" she whispered. The sound was raspy, dry. I was by her side in a heartbeat. "I'm here, honey. I'm right here." She tried to sit up, but winced. "Kennedy, is he—" "He's gone," I said, smoothing her hair back. "He's in a cell where he belongs. The whole world knows, Helen. You don't have to hide it anymore." Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry I didn't call. I was ashamed." "No," I said firmly. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm the one who should be sorry. I let my pride keep me away. But I'm not going anywhere now." The justice system, however, is a slow and creaky machine. Despite the video, despite the fraud, Kennedy's high-priced legal team found a loophole. A technicality about the custody of the digital evidence. 2 weeks later, Sampson called me. He made bail, Frank. $5 million. His mother put up the estate in the Hamptons. "He's out?" I gripped the phone until the plastic creaked. "He's out, and he's desperate. A man like that, losing everything, he's going to lash out. I'm tracking his ankle monitor, but Frank, you need to be careful. He bought a prepaid burner phone an hour ago. I'm at the hospital, I said. We have security. Security is for honest people, Sampson warned. Kennedy isn't honest. Watch your food. Watch your meds. Watch everything. That evening, a delivery man arrived at the nurse's station with a care package, a basket of gourmet muffins and expensive coffees. The card read, "From the Real Estate Association, get well soon." Nurse Betty brought it into the room. "Look at this, some nice treats." My stomach growled. I reached for a muffin. Then Sampson's voice echoed in my head. "Watch everything." "Wait," I said, slapping Nurse Betty's hand away gently. "Mr. Callahan, don't touch it." "Who delivered this?" "Just a courier." I took the basket and walked it down to the security desk. "Call the police," I told them. "And get this tested." It took 4 hours, but the results came back from the lab. The muffins were injected with high levels of anticoagulant, rat poison. It wouldn't have killed us instantly, but it would have caused internal bleeding that looked like complications from Helen's injuries. Kennedy wasn't just mad. He was trying to finish the job. This time, there was no bail. Sampson traced the courier payment back to Kennedy's burner phone. They found the remaining poison in the glove box of his rental car. I went to the sentencing hearing a month later. Helen was in a wheelchair beside me. Kennedy sat at the defense table, looking small and pale. The arrogance was gone, replaced by the hollow look of a man who knows his life is over. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Abernathy, looked over her spectacles. "Mr. Blackwood, your actions are repulsive. You are sentenced to 25 years for attempted murder, to be served consecutively with your 15-year sentence for federal fraud." 40 years. He would be an old man before he saw the sky without bars. As they led him away, he didn't look back. He didn't look at Helen. He was already a ghost. With Kennedy gone and the divorce proceedings finalized, there was only one shadow left over us. My timeline. I had been coughing less since arriving in Seattle, maybe because the air was wetter, or maybe because I had a purpose. But the 4-month deadline was approaching. I went to a specialist at the University Hospital, Dr. Aris Prentice. He ran new scans, took new biopsies. I sat in his office, ready to hear that it was time to arrange hospice. Dr. Prentice walked in, frowning at a clipboard. "Mr. Callahan," he said. "Who diagnosed you with stage 4 lung cancer?" "A clinic back in Montana," I said. "Well," Prentice tossed the clipboard on the desk. "They're idiots." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You don't have cancer, Frank. You have severe histoplasmosis. It's a fungal infection in the lungs. It creates nodules that look exactly like tumors on an X-ray if you don't know what you're looking for. It's rare, but given your work history and environment, it makes sense." "So, I'm dying of fungus?" "No," he smiled. "You're not dying at all. A 6-month course of antifungal medication and you'll be fishing by next summer." 18 months later. I sat on the porch of a cabin near a lake in Montana. The air was crisp and smelled of pine needles. The sun was setting, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and purple. Helen walked out of the screen door, carrying 2 mugs of hot cocoa. She walked without a limp now, though the emotional scars would take longer to fade. Beside her toddled a little boy, just barely walking. My grandson. Not Kennedy's son. Helen had adopted him 6 months ago. She named him Frank. "You thinking about the past again, Dad?" Helen asked, handing me the mug. No, I lied, just watching the light change. She sat beside me, resting her head on my shoulder. We made it. Yeah, I said, taking a sip. We made it. I looked at little Frank chasing a butterfly in the grass. I had prepared to die, and in doing so, I had learned how to fight for life. I had saved my daughter. But really, she had saved me. She gave me a reason to question the diagnosis, a reason to pick up the phone, a reason to be a father again. Listen to me closely. There are people in your life right now who are hurting in silence. Maybe it's a daughter, a neighbor, or a friend. They are waiting for someone to notice. Don't wait until you have a terminal diagnosis to open your eyes. Don't wait until it's too late to pick up the phone. Be the person who breaks down the door. Be the person who stays. If this story moved you, if you believe in second chances and justice, please subscribe to this channel. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's look out for each other. I took a deep breath of clean mountain air. I had 40 years left, and I wasn't going to waste a single minute.